Hey everyone, welcome back to Platinum Off-Road. In this video, short and simple, what we want to do is talk to you guys about the heat blender actuator. And what that's happening is the fact that whenever we turn the ignition forward, if we're driving, if we go over to full heat, we notice that for just a quick second it actually is pretty warm, but then quickly drops back down. And so it seems that full heat doesn't exist in this, and then any of these within this parameter doesn't exist as well. Once you break just a little bit below this, it goes to cold pretty quick. Now at the time of this video, it's 34 degrees outside, so this is a problem that needs to get addressed. And this is what we did to help kind of test out and see what might be the problem. This is your heat blend door actuator, and so what this guy is designed to do is it's designed to pivot this arm in relation to your switch control in the temp setting. So what'll happen is if you go to full cold, you're going to see that guy move down. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click that switch, change the setting 2 at a time, and then you're going to be able to see that arm pivot in relation to that. So as you do it, we're going to go 1, 2, we'll see it move, another, and another. You'll see this go through the ranges. Now once we get over to the heat side, we start to see it starts to move things around. And then this is at full heat. So if we go back to that, we're going to go back to full heat right now and see what it does. It maxes out and then brings back down. So we've hoped that we've eliminated the fact that the switch is the issue, because this actuator is receiving full parameters from one max to the other, and the actuator itself is backing down. So what we're going to do is replace this actuator. I'll put a part number up here for you so that way you guys can easily access that part number. And for the JK series, this is a 2013 model. These JKs do have 3 of these throughout your entire air control system up here under the dash. It is one part number that is each of the 3 actuators. So if you buy one and you find yourself having a problem with one of the others, don't be upset, because you can just put it in place of those. So to access this, it's pretty simple. It was this simple panel underneath your steering wheel column, and then you'll have a metal plate being held on with 2 10mm bolts, and then you'll have another support up like this with 8mm bolts. So once you take those 8mm bolts off, get it out of the way, you can access this pretty good. Now you're going to have the air duct coming through right here. For that air duct removal, it is rather large. What you're able to do is we just kind of came in here from the bottom side and we kind of gave it some clock rotation as we kind of pulled out and twist, and it released pretty simple. You know, you want to be real careful with it. It is a soft plastic, so be careful going in with or taking out with that.
So we removed the actual actuator itself, and some of you guys might be looking at the video because you're hearing a popping or a clicking noise inside or underneath your dash, and having issues going from heat to cold. So inside here is a series of gears. We just simply wanted to open up the old one and show you guys that perhaps you might be missing some of the teeth in here, or they're stripped out or worn down. And so if you hear a popping as well, that could also be a symptom that you're having, and hopefully this is your fix as well.
Once you get the new actuator plugged up, you're going to want to go ahead and plug it in. Don't put the arm on it or transfer it from the old one to the new one. Go ahead and plug it in and make sure that it resets itself to the position that your old one is at. And so for us, we turned the temp control all the way to cold, and you notice there's a missing gear tooth on the gear itself. Anyways, it'll line up on the factory one. It lined up. There we go. It lined up with the little range here, the point range. There we go. The point range there, that was on full cold. So for the new one, like I said, before you put the arm on, we did that. Plug it in, set your switch, turn your ignition to the on, so that way it can reset. And then that's when you're going to want to go ahead and go in there and put the arm on in the exact position you took it off the old one. So make sure you take a picture of that position before you go ahead and put this one back on. Once you get everything assembled, what you want to do is make sure you have all moving items lubricated with just a multi-purpose grease. Make sure that everything in there is fitting well. What we did is we found a little easier to go ahead and set the arm on the back pivot point guide, and then go ahead and set the actuator into it, and making sure that we get that position right on it. It was a little easier for us. When this thing is on full cold, it has some tension down here against the stop point, and so it was a little difficult. So for you guys, you might want to put the arm on to the housing first for the blower unit, and then over to the actuator. So anyways, let's go ahead and cycle through the modes. That's full cold coming out. Again, we're going to do it 2 by 2 by 2 going through. And then let's go ahead and kick it over to the heat side. And then we're going to see things change. Now, what we're going to pay attention to is there at the very end. There we go. It stays up. Now, before, again, it was dropping down. And then once we come off of that full heat mode, it was quickly dropping all the way towards the middle. So now at this point, now we know that we should have full heat and hopefully fixed our problem. Once we got the actuator in, we were able to see the blend door range all the way through heat to cold properly, not missing out or skipping out on any part of the heat or cool side. So we were glad to get that behind us. However, we did still have an issue. We were having a cooler temp come out of the driver's side ducts than we did on the passenger side. Fixing that blend door, we were able to see that the temperatures on the passenger side was pretty close to a desirable temperature where we wanted it to be. However, the driver's side was still a significantly amount of degrees lower. So we went ahead and we took apart the coolant system. We accessed the heater core directly through the hoses just on the passenger side, firewall on the engine side, accessing the in and out hoses. We ran water both through each hose, each direction, to make sure you get a nice flow of water, breaking anything up, grime that's built up in there, pushing that out. We also use that inlet for an access to access the block, as well as bring it down through the lower side of the block and up through the radiator. We did also drop the lower radiator hose as it came up to the water pump, and then of course the radiator cap, running water both directions through everything. Keep doing this to where you know you've got good clear water coming out. Now also make sure that you let your engine cool down to where you're not pushing cold water into a hot block. There's a lot of vital components in these, and you want to make sure not to distort any metal from rapid cooling on a hot block. So once we did do that, we were able to get back in, power up, get a nice flow of hot coolant through there, and we were able to see that both passenger and driver were blowing exactly the same temperature. And they were both blowing exactly where we wanted them. So we were able to go ahead and go out for a test drive and actually have to take off our jackets and bring that temperature down a little bit because it was blowing so hot. So we were pretty happy once we got everything behind us for this heater issue. We hope that this video is helpful in diagnosing an actuator. Remember, you might get in and hear a clicking noise. Once you start to work through your air controls when you first turn on the Jeep, that could be one of those 3 actuators. Also, if you're just having a low temperature or a temperature issue, you can look up in there like we showed you a little earlier and verify whether or not your blend door is going through full motion. So anyways, again, we hope the video was helpful. Please subscribe to the channel for other helpful videos, and for sure give a like to this, and we'll see you next time.